Troy has increased his delivery estimates for Q2. He is now at 437,000 and he started with 429,000 and then it went to 432,000 on April 29th, then 434,000 and now 437,000. If things continue like this, then maybe Troy's final estimate is going to be closer to 450,000 deliveries for Q2. Troy's track record is pretty good, although his final estimate tends to be a little bit overly optimistic as of late. But his Q1 final estimate was pretty close. He was only 1% off. That's really good. And now let's go through all of today's Tesla stock news. Tesla has started sending out FSD beta to new testers, resuming a rollout that was paused for several months due to a recall from NHTSA, which was solved through over-the-air updates. If you didn't have full self-driving up until now, if you sign up for it, you should be able to get it immediately. We have insurance numbers from China, and we can estimate that roughly 1,250 Model S's and X's were sold in China, specifically in April. Last week, based on insurance data, Tesla delivered about 10,000 vehicles, roughly the same number as the last week. So this number is fairly good. Although if you look at this, which was Q4, maybe it doesn't look as good, but if you compare it to the last quarter, it's actually pretty good. This chart actually, I think, is the best one to compare each quarter, and this clearly shows that we are doing very well so far. And if you compare year-over-year numbers, we are doing incredibly well so far. Because the deliveries are so smooth, the costs for delivering these vehicles are likely lower this quarter. And even though May has not finished yet, we are already ahead of the first 2 months of the previous quarter combined. Because Tesla seemingly flattened the delivery wave, perhaps it is reasonable to expect that we won't have a very big jump at the end of the quarter, so it remains to really be seen how bullish is this data. Oppenheimer's Colin Rush, who is one of the best Wall Street analysts, wrote in a note, with Austin production clearly accelerating from investor day levels, we see Tesla investing in important innovations to enabling scaling, increased simplicity, and geopolitical de-risking of its supply chain. These efforts, notably around lithium refining, vehicle simplicity, materials optimization, and software learning cycles, continue to be well ahead of peers, of course. However, we believe the key near-term question for Tesla shares remains automotive gross margin as the company continues to grow share of global light-duty vehicles. Oppenheimer maintains a cautious stance due to the uncertain macroeconomic environment and timing of margin expansion. However, they acknowledge the possibility of Tesla shares experiencing short-term growth as the company surpasses its competition in a volatile market. Speaking of competition, this is the only, and really the only Audi that I recommend to anyone. And this one, I hear, is really good. It's the A5 2-liter turbo. Tesla's inventory in the US looks promising today. The Model 3 experienced a sharp drop, and so did the Model X. The Model S is pretty much flat. The Model Y continues to go down just a little bit each day after a sharper increase here, but I see this actually as a good thing for the Model Y, because remember, we now have some vehicles sent from China to Canada, meaning we send a lot less vehicles from the US to Canada. And we can actually now see Giga Shanghai made vehicles in Tesla's inventory in Canada. So inventory is still going down despite that is a very good sign. A lot of people also were worried about the rising inventory levels in Europe. However, if you look at the previous quarter, same exact day, we are now below last quarter's inventory levels. It's still a bit early to get really excited, but this is promising so far. Oh, and Gary is pretty happy with the Chinese deliveries as of late. He thinks that in China, we will have record deliveries this quarter again. Here's something that I didn't know about before. Model S and X use accelerometers on the chassis to measure road noise frequencies, which are canceled out via the speakers. There is an announcement from Waymo, which is a a Tesla full self-driving competitor, you could possibly say, maybe. Waymo and Uber partnered to bring Waymo's autonomous driving technology to the Uber platform. And James says people will try Waymo and learn that taking a 15-minute ride with a human is better than taking a 30-minute ride with a robotaxi, because Waymo chooses the easiest route, which is usually quite a bit longer than the most optimal route. And he thinks that the partnership will end because of that, because people will never use Waymo again after using it. But I think if they charge significantly lower prices, I think some people will still use it. Tesla expands massive virtual power plant to 3,000 more homes in Australia, which will help many people lower their electricity costs. This is really cool. You can now use Starlink anywhere while in motion. Previously, if your car was moving, you are not able to use Starlink, but now that is different. Although it does cost $250 a month with a one-time fee of $2,500. I think that's actually pretty reasonable because it works anywhere in the world. Well, Elon says almost anywhere on Earth. Elon tweeted about Cybertruck. We are working hard to get Cybertruck into production. This was a tough product to design and even tougher to build, but it will be great. Look at this beauty. I especially like this angle. Twitter made a small change today. If you go, for example, to Elon's profile, you can see all of Elon's subscriptions, and these are paid subscriptions. So if you subscribe to someone, you will see extra content from all of these people. This is pretty interesting. I guess if you want to find some interesting content, this is a good way to do it. This is really good for Twitter, and what's good for Twitter is also good for Tesla stock, because Elon will probably spend less time on Twitter, because Twitter having more users means Twitter makes money, which means Elon does not need to worry about Twitter losing money. Fox News confirmed that the Florida governor will announce his 2024 presidential run tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time in a Twitter Spaces interview with Elon Musk. I think it's not hard to understand that Twitter will keep growing quickly. Wall Street Journal just did an interview with Elon Musk, and here's what he had to say about the succession plan for Tesla.
What is your succession plan if you suddenly can't execute what you're doing, both in terms of who runs the companies, but as importantly, who votes those shares in terms of what happens longer term and strategically? What have you got a plan for all of those?
Yeah, succession is one of the toughest age-old problems. It's plagued countries, kings, prime ministers, and presidents and CEOs for since the dawn of history. There is no obvious solution. I mean, there are particular individuals identified as that I've told the board, look, if something happens to me unexpectedly, this is my recommendation for taking over. So in all cases, the board is aware of who my recommendation is, which they may choose to. It's up to them, of course. They may choose to go a different direction, but there is in the worst case scenario, this is who should run the company. The control question is a much tougher question, and something that I'm wrestling with, and I'm frankly open to ideas, because it certainly is true that the companies that I have created and are creating collectively possess immense capability. And so the stewardship of them is incredibly important. I want to make sure that the stewardship is ultimately accrues to the benefit of humanity. That's the idea, is the furtherance of civilization. Not that we're always successful in that, but that is aspirationally our goal. I have one idea which is sort of partly in place, which is to create kind of a sort of an educational institution that would control probably most of my vote. But this is not a case of automatically. I'm definitely not of the school of automatically giving my kids some share of the companies, even if they have no interest or inclination, or ability to manage the companies. I think that's a mistake. But it's a very hard problem to solve. And then who should be on the board of directors of the educational institution is also a very, very hard job to solve. So I think probably some disaggregation of control would make sense. I'm really just kind of thinking out loud creatively here.
I will probably dedicate the whole next video to that interview. My name is Matt Poises. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.